Welcome to Corporate Agony Aunt, the podcast that takes the agony out of career progression and gives you the straight talking advice you actually need to thrive at work. Hi, I'm Izzy, your Corporate Agony Aunt. Whether you're chasing a promotion, negotiating a pay rise, navigating office politics, or figuring out your next career move, this is the place for career highs, lows, the yeses and the nos. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening because your next big opportunity starts right here. First up, we're tackling your corporate dilemmas and how to handle them. The first one is, I don't want to be a manager, but I feel pressured to move up. What should I do? Not everyone wants to manage people, and that's okay. Career growth is not a one-size-fits-all path, and success doesn't mean moving into leadership. The key is to identify what kind of growth excites you and build a career around your strengths. In today's workplace, there's an overwhelming pressure to become a manager because it's often seen as the most obvious and easiest definition of success. Many companies structure career progression so that promotions are tied to leadership, leaving high performers feeling like they have no choice but to go down the management route. And quite frankly, some of them aren't even a fit for it. But being a great individual contributor is just as valuable as being a great leader. But being a great individual contributor is just as valuable as being a great leader. The reality is, a bad manager who took the role just to progress helps nobody, including themselves. So if you're feeling pressured to move into management, but know it's not right for you, the key is to redefine the success on your own terms and communicate that really clearly. The best thing you can do is have the conversation really early on. If you know that management isn't for you, the worst thing you can do is avoid the conversation and just let others assume that you'll eventually step into a leadership role instead of being upfront about your career goals. So it's a really easy way to have an open conversation when you're quite early in your career journey. I really enjoy the work that I do, Dave, and I want to continue growing my expertise. I'm not interested in a management role, but I'd love to explore other ways to contribute at a higher level. Are there senior leadership roles where they're individual contributor roles or strategic projects that I could take on to demonstrate my ability? This works because it shows that you're not rejecting of growth, you're simply choosing a different type of growth that plays to your strengths. By suggesting alternative ways to contribute, you help employers see your value beyond just managing people. Not only that, but there's only a finite amount of management positions available in certain companies. So often you're creating opportunities that wouldn't exist otherwise and creating solutions for businesses. You also need to look at alternative career paths. Management isn't the only way to move forward. Many industries have specialist senior roles, technical expert tracks, or strategic leadership positions that allowed you to grow without taking on direct reports. So a couple of examples might include becoming a subject matter expert, so a senior analyst, a principal engineer, lead consultant, or shifting into stuff that's more sort of project-based leadership like program manager, senior strategist, project manager, or moving into something that's more training or mentorship-based, so like an internal coach, learning and development roles, where you do liaise with people, but you don't need to directly line manage them as a result. You can transition into cross-functional work, so product roles, business development, where you can progress financially, but you don't necessarily progress from a managerial perspective. It works because it shows that you're still ambitious, you're just in a different direction. Companies value employees who want to grow in ways that benefit the business, whether that's through deeper expertise or strategic impact. If management isn't your goal though, you need to make sure you're growing in ways that keeps you competitive. Don't just focus on being employed, you need to stay employable. Just because you don't want to manage people doesn't mean you shouldn't develop new skills. I consider taking on high visibility projects that showcase your experience, developing technical or industry specific skills that make you indispensable. Becoming a mentor to junior employees or new starters without formally mentoring them is still a brilliant skill to develop, and it doesn't require you to be a manager. Building that reputation as a thought leader through presentations, writing, or public speaking, it really demonstrates that if you position yourself as an expert, your value becomes undeniable. Companies need leaders in multiple capacities, not just people managers. You need to make your case for a different growth path. If leadership keeps pushing you towards management, have a plan for what your alternative progression looks like. Instead of just saying, I don't want to manage, frame it as, I'd like to focus on becoming a senior specialist or on taking on more complex projects, or I see myself growing into a strategic advisory role rather than a people management one. Or maybe I'd love to lead on innovation and process improvements rather than direct reports. Employees need to see that you're not just avoiding responsibility, you're actively shaping your career in a way that benefits both you and the company. You need to remember that growth isn't just upwards, it's outwards too. Success isn't about job titles. You are so much more than job titles. It's about creating a career that fits you and that values you. The corporate world tends to reward traditional leadership paths, but the most fulfilling careers are built by those who carve their own. Our next corporate dilemma is, I keep getting rejected for jobs I'm qualified for. What am I doing wrong? Getting rejected for roles you're qualified for is so frustrating, but it's not always about your skills, it's often about how you're presenting them. The reality is job hunting is a numbers game, and your CV, interview style and networking strategy all play a role in landing the right opportunity. If you're constantly getting rejection emails or worse, no response at all, it's definitely time to tweak your approach. Small changes in how you apply, present yourself and engage with hiring managers can make a massive difference. Try and focus on tailoring each application to the job description. Remember that keywords really matter, especially for applicant tracking systems. Try and quantify your impact a bit better. Instead of saying, I led a project, talk about leading a project that improved efficiency by 30%. Make sure your experience aligns with what they're looking for, even if that means rewording job responsibilities to highlight the right skills. And you need to improve your interview game. If you're getting interviews but no offers, you might not be selling yourself effectively. Prepare structured responses using the STAR model, so situation, task, action and results, to demonstrate your impact, and record yourself answering common questions. Confidence, clarity and storytelling matter. Video yourself over and over again and watch it back, critique it, improve and go again. Also, you could try networking smarter. So cold applying online is tough. Referrals definitely increase your chances significantly. Reaching out to hiring managers and recruiters on LinkedIn with a message like, hi Dave, I came across X job title at X company today and I'm really excited about the opportunity. My background is in specific skills and experience and it aligns well with my background in marketing, let's say, aligns well and I'd love the chance to connect or learn more about the role. Let me know if you'd be open to a quick chat. Attend industry events, engage in LinkedIn discussions, join professional groups, expand your network, do whatever you can that disrupts what it is that you've been doing so far. And most importantly, ask for feedback. If you've been rejected after an interview, politely ask for feedback. A really simple email like, thank you so much for your time and consideration. I really enjoyed learning about the role and your team. If possible, I'd love any feedback on how I could improve for future opportunities. I wish you all the best and I look forward to hearing from you. Not everyone will respond, but when they do, it gives you valuable insight on where to improve. So often people come to me and say, Izzy, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm doing hundreds of interviews and applications. And I asked them when the most recent feedback was that they got, and it was months ago. We really, really need feedback, and we also need to critique ourselves too through videos. Next up, we have Corporate Confessionals, the part of the podcast where we share other people's biggest mistakes anonymously to make you feel better about your own mistakes and normalise the fact that we're all only human and this is only work. It's really not that deep. Today's Corporate Confessional is an event for 300 people. Basically, soup, chicken and cheesecake. What could go wrong? Organiser wanted raspberry cheesecake and I put strawberry cheesecake on the contract because really, I must have been having a tough day. The organiser signs off and it's 6 months to the event. On the day, strawberry cheesecake is served and the organiser has a meltdown. This was the first time I learnt, just to be honest. In this case, it was fine. I had my backup as the organiser hadn't questioned it. However, I did have to refund the dessert allocation from the package. It didn't go down very well, but I made it my mission to confirm an additional £1,000 of revenue on top of our monthly budget to recoup what I'd lost. And really, what could anyone say? This is the most brilliant example of accountability, solutions-led approach to mistakes, and also trying to find ways to rectify or remedy what's happened. This person could have just sat back and let that cost be absorbed by the business, but instead she made it her mission to make sure she made that money back so that the mistake couldn't be accounted for and attributed to her solely. She did everything she needed to do to own the mistake, make sure that it was handled with the client, and also make sure that the business was still happy with the performance. This is a prime example of where owning up from the off and actually taking control of the situation, leaning into a solution rather than a problem, is the way to have impact when it comes to the biggest mistakes you ever make in your career. Thank you for sharing that. Next up, we're talking how to nail a pre-recorded interview. They can feel so awkward and unnatural, but they are becoming increasingly common, especially for high-volume hiring process like graduate schemes and apprenticeships. Since you're not speaking to a person in real time, it can be difficult to gauge how you're doing, and the pressure to deliver polished answers in one take can feel completely overwhelming. The good news is you can prepare strategically and set yourself up for success. Here's how. Firstly, do your research. Glassdoor is your best friend. Think of Glassdoor as when you get the mark scheme for a test, but it's all of the answers. It gives you the insight into what companies are looking for straight from candidates who have already been through the process. I would say that most companies that use pre-recorded interviews to do them at scale mean many candidates will have shared their experiences online. So have a look for the company on Glassdoor and the role, and look at all of the past interview questions that people have so kindly and patiently decided to share. My guarantee is you'll identify some common themes, whether it's behavioural questions, competency-based questions, or industry-specific questions and scenarios, which will allow you to prepare structured responses in advance of the interview. By doing this, you're removing the guesswork and increasing your chances of delivering answers that align with the company and what the employer wants to hear. Next, and this might be a little bit of a weird one, use the pen trick to try and relax and improve delivery. Producer Georgia, can you pass me a pen? This is the pen trick. Look at how it's changing our body language in our face. Let me take this out. The pen trick forces a smile on your face in a nerve-wracking and awkward time. Using the pen trick just before you go on the video forces muscle memory to remember that that weird smile you can do will break the nerves in your face. Speaking to a camera with no one on the other side can feel robotic, and nerves often make people tense up, speak too fast, or sound monotone. One simple trick is to put the pen between your teeth for a few seconds just before you start. It forces your face to relax into a slight smile, and it helps your body relax. It loosens your jaw, and it makes your voice sound more natural. It subtly shifts your body language into a more open and confident state. Try it. Try the trick before recording your responses. It really does help to reset tension and put you into the right mindset. You need to find a quiet and professional looking space. Background noise and distraction can ruin an otherwise strong interview. If your house is chaotic like mine, with kids, pets, or nosy neighbours, find a quieter location, even if that means going to a friend's house or booking a study room at a library. Ensure your background is as neutral and professional as possible. Try and avoid clutter, messy rooms, or distracting elements behind you, and if you need to, blur the background. If your internet connection is unreliable, consider using a wired connection or ensuring other devices aren't draining bandwidth. A controlled environment ensures that the only thing the employer is focusing on is you, your answers, and not the background noise. This might be a weird one, but wearing a colourful but very professional top is a really good way to break up the mundane monotony that is pre-recorded interviews. Pre-recorded interviews are often reviewed by multiple recruiters, meaning your goal is to be memorable in a sea of applicants. A pop of colour, blue, green, red, helps you stand out while still looking polished. But please try and avoid distracting patterns, logos, bright neon shades. You want to be remembered for your answers, not your outfit. You just want a little bit of an edge. A small visual one can make a difference when hiring managers are reviewing hundreds of nearly identical video responses. And lastly, speak slowly and clearly. One of the biggest challenges with pre-recorded interviews is that there's no interviewer to naturally pace the conversation, which often results in talking too fast out of nerves, rambling or waffling at the end of an answer, and filling silences unnecessarily instead of taking a pause to think. To fix this, take a breath before you start answering. This gives you a second to collect your thoughts. Pace yourself. Speak as if you're explaining something to a colleague, not rushing them through a script. And summarise your answers clearly. A strong answer should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, not just tail off awkwardly. If you catch yourself wrangling on, you can always pause and say, "Sorry, let me rephrase that more clearly." Recruiters prefer a concise, structured answer over a long-winded one. Please just practice. Promise me that you will. Pre-recorded interviews require precision and confidence, and the only way to get comfortable is by practicing. Record your answers, sample questions, play them back. Notice any habits, filler words like, lack of eye contact, rush speed, and refine it accordingly. Time your responses too, because most companies will give you between 1 to 2 minutes per question, so practice structuring answers within that time frame using the STAR method we've talked about before. Situation, task, action, and result to keep your answers focused and impactful. Remember, the more you practice, the more natural and polished you'll feel on the actual interview day. My final reminder is that pre-recorded interviews can feel unnatural, but with the right prep, you can turn them into an advantage. It's the same level of effort as an interview, but ultimately they determine whether or not you move to the next stage. So please put in the prep work, do the repetitions. It might feel boring, but if it doesn't get you this job, it'll get you the next one, so it's worth taking the time. One more reminder for my interviews this week. You can confirm salary before or during the application if it just says competitive salary. Think about the response and how it impacts you, and have a minimum number that you'd be willing to satisfy for, and have a minimum number that you'd be willing to settle for. Next up, we have our community questions from producer Georgia, who collates all the questions you've asked us on socials this week to make sure we're giving you answers straight from the horse's mouth. Producer Georgia, what have we got today?
My company are trying to force me out, but I don't want to leave until I find a new job. Any advice?
This is a tough one. Firstly, I'm sorry that you're going through that. That is an awful experience and it's an awful thing to feel. But my guess is if that is how you feel, then that's probably what's happening. My first bit of advice would be to document absolutely everything. If you leave a meeting or a series of meetings with your managers and you feel as though you are being quietly pushed out, document that in writing. Hi Dave, thank you so much for the time today. Just to be clear on my understanding, it feels as though we're having a conversation around my performance. Please can you put into writing exactly what it is that needs to improve in my performance? Or you could say, based on what your feedback was, I know that you'd like me to improve A, B and C around performance. When would you like me to update you on how this is going? You need to put into writing that you know that this is a conversation that's being had. You can also be more explicit than that. Another option you could do is be really, really clear. Hi Dave, it feels as though we're having a conversation about trying to make me exit this business. I would really like to sit down and clarify exactly what it is that we're discussing when it comes to my performance. When do you have time this week? Try and hold the managers to account in email threads, because that is evidence. Companies should not behave like this. It is cowardly, but it is how it happens. If you get a little hint of them trying to get you out, I can promise you, you don't want to work there. I promise you don't want to work there. Fight for your right to stay, fight for your salary and your security that you think you've got, but please, please, please start protecting yourself and start looking for your next opportunity, because if they're going to find a way to push you out, they will. And so use their time to find your next thing. Thanks, Producer George. What's next?
How do I recover from oversharing at work?
As a chronic oversharer, I can tell you that you can't recover. You've already said it. If you've said it, it's already out. It's already out the bag. But what you can do is try and prevent yourself from saying these things again. So one trick I got from a lady I was on a panel with was around having traffic light system for your colleagues. Think of the colleagues that you frequently talk to. Who are the reds? You should not be sharing a single thing with a red. Who are the ambers? They make you feel like you can trust them, but you know deep down you can't. You shouldn't be sharing anything with them. Who are your greens? Who are your girls? Who are your go-to people that you can share with? Again, that is a lesson in trust, and it can take a long time to find the right people, but you know ultimately there are people that you can share things with and others that it is just not appropriate. The best thing you can do is, if you've overshared, is try and overcompensate with performance. Make it so that people are talking about your performance, your contribution, your cultural contribution, the things that you're doing to go above and beyond. Try and distract them from the conversation, but it doesn't always work, okay? So stop oversharing, stop running your mouth, and maybe I'll take my own advice as well. And what's next?
If you were laid off in your last company because of redundancies, how do you answer that in your interview?
If you're in an interview and you're being asked about being laid off because of redundancies, restructure or financial constraints when it comes to a company, my personal belief is that you can be honest about this. Just because the market we're in at the moment, so many people have been made redundant, going through restructure, financial budgets are being changed, so roles are getting chopped. I don't think it's something you can hide or lie about, because truthfully, if a company wanted to find out why you left your current company, they could probably quite easily do a Google search and ascertain that the company is doing redundancies or restructures. So I would lean into the truth, but I would turn it into a positive. So unfortunately, my last company had to make some restructures due to financing problems, but I've actually seen this as the most brilliant opportunity to lean into something that I really want to do, like the role that is on offer with your company. Like, if this hadn't happened, I would not be sat here today, and I'm super excited to see how the next steps of my career can grow with you and your business. Turning it into a positive is definitely the way to try and find a silver lining in a negative. Is that it, Producer George? That's it for today. I hope this episode helped to kickstart your career glow up. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our future career tips and tricks, and share this with a friend who's also navigating their career journey or job hunt. And let's build an unstoppable community of professionals who know how to win in the corporate world. There are extra resources on my website and in the links in my bios to help you land your dream job and tackle your corporate dilemmas one step at a time. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Corporate Agony Aunt.